Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Project Management Guru series delivered by the Project Management Guru. Um, Today, we've shifted focus and we are moving into project planning. We finished the initiation of the project. We are assuming that everything is approved for us. The business case has been approved. The project charter has been signed off, and our stakeholder registers are ready, and our needs analysis have been done and approved, and our project brief has also been signed off, and we are now ready to go into planning. Today I want to share with you the top 10 common planning mistakes that project managers do during the planning of a project. But before I talk about these planning errors or planning mistakes, I just want to talk a little bit about project planning, the importance of planning, and what planning can do to, or what planning can contribute towards the success of your project. The research had proven that most failed projects or projects with problems or disaster problems, you can see that the disasters or the failure can be traced back to the planning. Planning, the disaster was actually planned right from the beginning due to faulty planning or certain mistakes conducted during the planning stage or omissions. So when you see problematic projects, just trace it back to the planning and you see some of the flaws that caused these problems. So what happens is there is this adage that indicates that he who plans to plan is planning to fail, by Sir Winston Churchill. So that emphasizes the importance of planning. You need to plan. If you don't plan, then you are just heading towards failure. A goal without a plan is just a dream. So just as a project, you have a goal for the project or the project objectives, you must have a plan for those objectives, how you are going to achieve them. So it's very, very important. And research had also proven that sufficient planning, makes it contributes to the success of a project. If you spend sufficient time on planning, there's the likelihood that your project, all things being equal, will be successful. So we cannot discount planning at all in our project management practice. And we need to spend sufficient time planning the project, thinking through the project, and make sure we've considered everything or we've planned for everything. Of course, sometimes it can be impossible to plan for everything. Remember, there are things on the way which there are surprises which pop up during a project. I do understand, but at least it's better to plan than not to plan at all. Okay, so I want to share with you some of the 10 common planning mistakes that we have been doing in our planning efforts, especially project planning, so that you avoid some of these planning mistakes whenever you are planning your project. The first planning mistake that we always do in project planning is no strategic thinking, no big picture thinking. We move too early into detailed planning. The planning of a project must start with strategic planning. We have to look at the big picture. And in some of my courses, I'll teach you how to do strategic project planning. That is where the planning begins. You must look at a project strategically and develop a strategic plan for the project before you go into detailed planning. So we move too early into detailed planning, and that is the planning error. We also ignore environmental context. You don't plan in isolation. There are other plans in the system. Let's say you are planning a water supply scheme. There are other plans in the locality. Land use plans, town planning, town plans, and so many other plans in the system. Other government departments have plans. Human settlements have plans. In isolation, you must factor in all these other plans. Otherwise, your plan will be out of context. So it's very important that please you consider the environmental context. There are other plans in existence before your project came. So you must consider those plans as well. Environmental department have a plan for the locality. Tourism has a plan. And you don't create conflicting plans. Your plans should not conflict. Even the province has a plan for that locality where your project is going to be located. And there could also be even national plans. Have you consulted the National Development Plan? Whether there's any national plan of a project within that locality. So please don't ignore the environmental context when planning. Then lack of planning. Lack of planning. If you fail to plan, you are just planning to fail, according to Sir Winston Churchill. You must have a plan. You must plan for every aspect of the project. It's very, very important. And then ignoring issues when planning. There could be existing issues, and you need to factor it into the plan. It's very important. Some things that you inherited, maybe from previous projects or within the locality, issues. And you need to plan for these issues before they hit you somewhere along the line on the project. We plan with vague and unclear objectives. What are we planning for? What do we want to achieve at the end of the day? Or when this project is completed? Vague and unclear objectives. Your objectives should not be vague. It should be clear exactly what we want to achieve so that we can be measured at the end of the project that yes, we achieved the objectives. The next thing is using softwares too early. We use softwares too early. Too early. The Gantt chart, the Microsoft projects, we quickly jump into softwares. No. As I told you from the beginning, there must be strategic thinking first. There must be a strategic plan. We need to think through and come up with a strategy. A project is like going to war. We must have a strategy, and that strategy is not in softwares. Softwares is just a tool. The strategy is in our heads. You have to sit down with your team and come up with a strategy, how to overcome the constraints, the risk, the assumptions that this project presents to you. So softwares come at a later time. Softwares can be used when you get to detailed planning. And remember, software is just a tool. Then neglecting stakeholders in your planning. This is another aspect of planning which I don't know why project managers do this. The beneficiaries of the project. The functional managers in the various functional departments of the project organization. The client himself. The regulatory bodies. Why are you neglecting them in your planning? You need them. You need to get their interest in the planning. You need to get their agreement to the plan and need to get their commitment to the plan. So don't neglect stakeholders when you are planning. The project manager and your team, please involve stakeholders. You can plan and send it to them for them to have a look at it and comment. But please make sure you solicit their interest, their input, and their commitment to whatever plan you have produced. Another mistake is one-shot planning. You don't plan once and go to sleep. No, it doesn't work that way in projects. Your plans are going to be reviewed and reviewed and reviewed. Remember, I told you about the project cycle. At the end of each phase, you have to go through a gate review and you have to look at the plan again. Is this plan working? If it's not working, you have to review it and adjust it for the next phase. So there's nothing like one plan or one size fits all plan. It's a very dynamic document and you need to revise and revise based on what is happening, the actuals. Plan misalignment. Your plan sometimes are misaligned with the strategic objectives of the project organization. Your plans should be aligned. It must talk to the strategic objectives or the overall strategy of the project organization. Another common mistake is insufficient time and effort on planning. Most of the time, I know we are in a hurry to ground. So quickly, work must start. No. You must allocate sufficient time and effort in your planning before the project starts. If you don't allocate sufficient time and effort on planning, you're on your way to disaster. You might fail on this project. So there must be sufficient time. And I've realized throughout my practice that people really don't plan. There's no strategic thinking. Even if they plan, they do just little planning. Little time and effort on planning, and then the work must begin. Sometimes under pressure from the client, work must begin. But remember, we all want to achieve success for this project. And the seeds of success are sown at the planning stage. So please allocate time and effort to your planning work. Then the last error that we always do is planning assumptions, planning risk, planning constraints. They are not considered. These are things you consider when you are doing the strategic planning. And most of the time, nobody talks about risk. Nobody talks about constraints. Nobody talks about assumptions. We just get some templates and then we have a plan. You need to actually think through what are the constraints that this project presents? What are the assumptions? What are the risks? And what are outstanding issues that you've inherited on this project? And all this must be factored into the plan. It's very, very important. Otherwise, you are just planning out of context and your plan will not work. So it's very important. Anytime you start project planning, think of going to war and you being the war general. And you need to come up with a strategy as to how to win this war. And it's the same thing in the case of in the case of projects. You have to think and think and think and think. And sometimes you do it, it doesn't work, you have to revise it. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the 10 common mistakes in project planning. And I'll admonish you to please avoid these mistakes in the planning of your projects, because these are some of the mistakes that contribute to the failure of your projects. Thank you very much for listening. And once again, don't forget to visit my Facebook page, #GCCJBCC, or view some of my live videos on the YouTube channel, JB Nati. And make sure you subscribe to those channels. It's free so that you can enjoy some of these live videos. Thank you very much. And you can also join me in my weekend courses. You just have to get registered into the weekend courses. And I'll go into detail in some of these lectures that I've been providing on my channel. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.